This video is over classification of living organisms. One thing that scientists love to do is to classify, especially biologists. It's really important that we have an understanding of how organisms are related to one another, both historically and modern day. It helps us with understanding those organisms better, helps us understand relationships, helps us develop things like new medicines or learn new things in genetics. So there's lots of different things that are important parts of classification. The science of classification is called taxonomy, and we will be looking at sort of some taxonomic relationships. So, what we're looking at here, we've already mentioned that there are three domains of life. Remember that we had domain bacteria, domain archaea, and domain eukarya. Um, so, as we're looking at these, we can look at the relationships among organisms and determine kind of how related they are to one another through a lot of this classification. Classification used to be done based on physical characteristics of organisms, but now with the genetic revolution, now we can sequence entire genomes. And so we have a lot more information about how things are actually related. So as we're looking at this slide, one of the things that we see is this diagram with the three domains. So here's our prokaryotes, which are our bacteria and our archaea. Um, you can see that compared to animals, fungi, and plants, they're much more distant. So we're looking at the family tree here. Way, way, way back is where bacteria kind of branch off. So very early in the existence of life, bacteria branched off in one direction, and slightly later, we see our archaeans. Much further down the road is when our domain eukarya begins to show up. So this is where we have plants and fungi and animals. Um, and notice that we can tell how closely related things are by how close the branches are on the family tree. So, for example, as we're looking at this slide, we see that animals and fungi are more closely related than our animals to plants. So, animals closer to fungi, more closely related. Notice this, the branch is very close in the family tree. Where down here, there was a branch and then it branched to form the plants. And so there's a much more distant relationship there. And we're talking about millions of years when I say much more distant. So looking at things that have a common ancestor. The other thing with taxonomy, we use scientific classification, a scheme for scientific classification that Linnaeus came up with. And you're probably familiar with this from other biology courses that you've had. Of course, the largest category is there at the top, and that is the domain, and that's eukarya. So we're looking at an example of a red fox here. It is in the domain eukarya. We know that it is a multicellular organism. It has the characteristics of eukaryons. It is not a single-celled organism. It does not have a capsule. There are several other things that make it specifically a eukaryon. That is then broken down into the various different kingdoms. So kingdoms will be things like plants and animals and fungi. Here, the fox belongs to the kingdom Animalia. Its phylum is Chordata because it has a backbone. Its class is Mammalia because it's a mammal. Its order is Carnivora because it is carnivorous. Its family is Canidae. It's in the dog family. Genus is Vulpes, and so there's a group specific to canids that involve various different foxes, such as Arctic foxes, red foxes, gray foxes. And finally, its species is Vulpes. So the red fox would be referred to as Vulpes vulpes. We use the genus and species names as the actual name scientifically of an organism. And that is classification in a nutshell.